Hello, my name is Daniel Washington, and this is week 3, lesson activity number 6, Old Testament figure presentation. I chose to do my Old Testament figure presentation on Joshua, and I'm just going to go through the questions as they are listed in the study guide and um, go from there. First question is, what did Joshua first, or when did this figure, that will be Joshua, first make his debut in Old Testament history? Um, First of all, Joshua's name, it means Yahweh delivered, or it can mean salvation. Jesus is the New Testament Greek equivalent to Joshua's name. Um, as far as his first appearance in the Old Testament, we are introduced to Joshua in the book of Exodus. It's when Israel got in their first battle with Amalek, and that is where we meet Joshua. Joshua, he receives instruction from Moses to choose men. In the 17th chapter of 17th chapter of Exodus, in the 9th verse, he's instructed by Moses to choose men to go out and fight against Amalek. I think it's overlooked that Joshua was referred to right there, because that story is a great story about Moses having to keep his hands raised in order for the people of God to get victory during battle. And you have Aaron on one side of Moses and Hur on the other side, keeping his hands lifted, which I believe was really communicating the idea that God was fighting for the people. That it really wasn't what they were doing, but it was more about what God was doing for them as they surrendered. However, it can't be overlooked that Joshua was in the heat of battle, swinging a sword, um, and which was more than just having his hands raised. So that's where we meet Joshua. Um, and under what circumstances did this person arise? Joshua's reputation, it rose as he was the understudy, the disciple, the pupil of Moses. He would go halfway up the mountain with Moses when he would meet with God. So he would be a lot closer to the presence of God, um, hearing the voice of God, experiencing the tangible manifestation of the presence of God on the mountain in smoke and in fire. Um, Joshua, he accompanied Moses in every way, and that's how his reputation grew. How did Joshua impact the story of God's people in the Old Testament? Joshua is best known and most known for actually leading the children of Israel into Canaan. Moses didn't, he died. Um, but Joshua actually led the people into the promise that God had made to Abraham in the book of Genesis concerning his offspring, and the fact that he would give this land to the seed of Abraham. Um, from a historical vantage point, is Joshua generally viewed as positive or negative? I would definitely say Joshua is viewed as positive. Um, in the book of Judges, in the 2nd chapter, we find that it was throughout the lifetime of Joshua, that Israel served the Lord. And typically, when you look at the history of the kings, when a king was evil or corrupt, or he was wicked, the people didn't serve the Lord. But as I pointed out, in Joshua's case, the 2nd chapter, in the 7th verse, It says the people served the Lord all the days of Joshua and all the days of the elders who survived Joshua, who had seen all the great work of the Lord which he had done for Israel. Joshua's testimony is very powerful. Not just the fact that he served Moses, but I think it's overlooked that he saw the 10 plagues. He saw the hand of God and the power of God being put on display as God fought Pharaoh and the Egyptians for them. And that's just so powerful to me, that he witnessed the darkness that God caused to fall. He witnessed the death of the firstborn, and that he witnessed the Nile River being turned into blood, and he witnessed the plagues of the flies and the frogs, and he saw the hand of God working, and he was an eyewitness and could testify to what God had done. And just the story of Joshua, how over time, beginning with the Egyptian deliverance being the foundation of his experience with God, and then the wilderness experience, along with being one of the 12 spies that surveyed the land at Moses' instruction, all that he had experienced, it was just his reputation, and I think was incredible among the people. And even in the book of Joshua, the Bible says that on different occasions that God, he elevated him in the eyes of the people. Then the student guide also asked, did I personally see any parallels in my life with Joshua's? I think one of the main things, the first things that come to my mind, is that Joshua was not a person who rushed into leadership. And I see myself the same way, that I'm not the kind of person who I've had opportunities to be a pastor, had opportunities to do things probably sooner than later, but God has had me in the slow cooker of preparation, of pain, of hurt, of victory, all of it. Obviously, I believe is Romans 8:28, working together for my good and working together for God's glory. So that's definitely one way in which I relate to Joshua. So that's Joshua, son of Nun, of the tribe of Ephraim, successor of Moses, champion for the Lord.